Good morning, all. I deemed it a great honor and privilege to welcome you for webinar on National Education Policy. Let me first of all start by giving glory to the Almighty God for making today's occasion a resounding success. We first thank the management for creating this wonderful platform where we able to form a forum to share our thoughts. We are grateful to our principal, Dr. Jayasudha A, who is really a guiding and constant motivating force behind our endeavor. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Vinu Sudan, Assistant Professor, Department of English, PAG College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore. He has completed UG, PG, and MPhil English Literature from Government Arts and Science College, Coimbatore, and additional qualifications such as postgraduate diploma in computer applications. He has attended various training programs, lifetime member in technical education in New Delhi, freelance writer. I wish you a productive online sessions. Now I welcome Mr. Vinu Sudan to start the session.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, sir, for a short and detailed introduction about it. Student friends, if I have to introduce myself, I'm a normal person. Okay, I'm just a learner of things. I just want to share an important things in a short. Okay, so I believe that before I'll go into the lesson part, or before we'll go into the main topic of today. So this is the book of Apothecary. Today's word we'll call it as the compounder. So guys, you know about it. One of the medical practitioners' diary. Exactly, it's taken on 1899. In the year 1899 in southern London, and these are all the list of persons who affected or either who died because of various diseases and various health related issues. So I think many things are there in the net, but this is a really authenticated material. When I saw this, first thing that comes to my mind is how many people had died. First thing is alarming is the number of people who did die, and there are some things which is so common right now, sort of like teeth infection, vomiting, and worms in the intestine. So such kind of an issues, it's taken care by the primary health centers and the rural health development offices and the clinics itself. But some 100 years before, 100 plus years before, there were times, there were period where people had died just because of there are so many contagious deadly diseases and viruses. But like, you could just go through it. Maybe I'll send it to your faculties maybe at some time, or you can surf it in the net. It's there. Like, people died for common things, or for like very frivolous right now. So the reason why I'm showing the diary of a medicinal profession some 100 plus years before is that it's because of medicine, it's because of the inventions, and because of the medicinal professionals in the health and medical departments, and especially the everyday untiring work done by uh, the nursing, everyone from top to bottom. But here, I think student friends, from a common perspective, from a normal person's perspective, I really have to thank each and every one of you here for not only attending it, that's a whole different thing, but for your present and your idea, as well as your future plan and action to serve the people and to serve the society, because each and every department has a unique purpose. But when compared to the other professionals, I'll not call this as a professional, but as a layman's perspective, but this is something far fetched from the above and normal. So this is to show that there were times people had died or affected or down with so many things in the hospitals or in their bed without medicines, without proper care, without proper knowledge, or without proper sanitary development. But it is because of the professionals and people, common people who rises from the society and serves the need and ill and unhealth has to be appreciated and has to be measured and has to be uh, deeply recognized in all ways. So thank you for choosing this pious, and thanks for choosing this wisdom and something that what you're going to give it to the society and something was what you're giving to the ill affected and down with people has to be appreciated, measured, and as a normal person, I have to thank from the bottom of my heart for all your work and all your ideas towards the society. Good morning, friends. Uh, just a minute. Nothing else. Slide later. Okay, technical word of it. So, good morning, everyone. So, my name is Vinisudan. I'm a faculty in the Department of English, PSG Arts and Science. And today we'll uh, have a proper discussion or uh, have an idea about the educational policy in India. And we'll see a detailed one. But I'm going to present it with some of the slides. But I hope that it will not be haphazard and confusing about it. So I'll go ahead with R. Okay. Before we'll stick on to what is education and why it's been celebrated and how it's been done and what are all the purpose about it. I think I have taken it from one of the famous quotes of Abraham Lincoln. So, and it's said, and I quote is, education is one thing that no one can take away from you. I think it's been mentioned in so many movies, places, and everywhere. Uh, See, thing is that the worldly things like assets, money, monetary benefits, even our own health, wealth, everything that can be taken off. That's all been part of. But education means not only it's about certificates and the testimonials. It is also about our knowledge. It's also about our insight. It's also about our experience, perception towards ourselves and towards the society. The education is not only about getting certificates. It's not only about getting marks, getting a job. That's important. That's all part of the life, and that is the prime of it. That's the utmost important of. But more than that, why should we say like, are you an educated person? Why are you doing this? There's some difference between educated and uneducated, but that's been going down for a long time. There's not much difference between educated and uneducated. I think if I have to say in Tamil means usually they'll say படிச்சவன் நீ நீ கூட ஏன் பண்ற. So what's the meaning of that? Means there should be some kind of like, not some, to an extent there should be difference between educated and an uneducated. Education is not only about to read and to write. to module a person, to modify a person. We may from different backgrounds, we may from different perspectives, we may from the different steps of a society. But education teaches us whoever it is under the sun, above the land, everyone is one and equal. Everyone should be taken care of. Persons who couldn't able to take care of themselves, the others should take care of themselves. So this is the utmost aim of an education means is not only to read and write, but to make a person to be a normal person. Treat everyone as human as possible and be as easy as it can be. So these are all the common steps of an education is about. So here the quote of all, there are so many quotes, there are so many explanations in it. But the one quote which is it's really it can be easily understandable from everyone perspective is people can take everything from people can take like I said about all the assets, monetary benefits, the worldly things, everything they can take, but they can't take education. Education means not only it's about certificates, it's not only about the placements, it's not only about the money that you get once. It is not an investment. First of all, see, education is obviously from a political point of view, from a policy point of view, it is an investment. Obviously, if you educate a person after some 10 or 15 years, he or she will work, they will improve the society, they will improve themselves, they will improve their family and everything. But that's from a policy, that's from an objective perspective. From a subjective, that means from ourselves, the purpose of an education is refine, remodel, relocate. That means make a person to understand ourselves, who we are, what we are, and what we are doing. Something is happens to us. Instead of thinking about all the problems and everything, we should concentrate more on the solutions. Okay, it's happened, then what's the next step that can be done? So to refine a person, to modify a person, and to make a decent human being, that's the utmost aim of an education is about, especially in a country like ours. So that's what education is brings to us. Okay. So, student friends, I don't want to bring you the so many facts and so many figures and so many informations about our education and educational policies, especially in our country. Because I think if you just go through any text materials or in any web sources, most of that we have to check and not verify it whether the facts and figures informations are authentic. And, having said that, I don't want to influx or ponder with the common words and facts and figures and informations about. I just want, including myself, starting from myself, like what is an education and how it's been started in our country. We'll stick on to our country. What is the purpose of it and how it's been modeled and how it's been metamorphosis changed into different perspectives and what is its current plight is all about. So instead of a discussion, instead of introduction, instead of views and explanations of educational policies, I just put a word mentioning it as insight. So that means we are going into it, not too deep into it, but get to know about what is education, what is meant by a policy, and what are all the impacts and what are all the things that circles around. Okay. So on every November 11th is the National Educational Day in India. Every day or most of the days, we have a separate remembrance. We have separate things to say about why it's been celebrated, why it's been commemorated, why it's been called November 11 as the National Educational Day is all about. And in this day that we have to think about so many persons, so many politicians, so many non-politicians, so many tradesmen, businessmen, social workers. There are so many tons and tons of people who fought for different things, especially in related to getting education. In the way that if I have to start from modern inventions, Rajaram Mohan Roy, he fought for women's rights. He fought for so many social vices that is against women and that is against society. And especially, he's one of the pioneer in fighting and getting the rights for uh, women's education, girls' education. Way back, I'm saying like the mid of 19th century and the late 19th century. So he's one of the pioneers. Even from the British point of view, there are a couple of viceroys, if I'm not sure about it, but there are a couple of lords and viceroys who really helped Indian people, especially women, uh, to get into the education part of it. And we don't want to go deep into a political system, like how it started, or like who's been dominated with it and who has got the upper hand, because I think it might differ. It might differ to different places and everything. So instead of going with all the negative perspective, we'll go only with the positive aspects of education, its policies in India. And first, we'll go ahead with why November 11th is considered or commemorated or celebrated as the National Educational Day is to mark. It is the birthday of late Honorable Shri Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. So he is the first education minister in India. He's one of the first minister of member of parliament who got selected, and in the first cabinet, he's been given the minister of education. And not only about it, but before I believe it was education and human resource development are both joined together. I think way back in 50s, 60s or 70s, I think they were partitioned subject to correction. But in 60s or in early 70s, I believe that education and human resource development has been totally segregated. See, guys, here I wanted to emphasize one more thing is about as a professional, as a medical professional, as a person who belongs to the nursing sector. See, friends, we all know about our duties, roles, and responsibilities. Obviously, yes. So we know that like the medicinal, the herbs, the drugs, the injections, everything, and we know like what we have to do to qualify, and we know what we should be able to do to get qualified. The education, the job opportunities, the employment, what are all the benefits, like we all know about. But do we have an understanding about, because labor force is the major workforce in our country, especially a country like India, which is improving day by day, step by step on every perspective. And as a professional, I'm not saying that you should know about the political policies of it. I'm saying on a general perspective, as a nursing practitioner, as a nursing professional, as a nursing a service sector, medical, employable person. See, guys, we comes under. I think as a service sector, we again it is subject to correction because still I'm not sure about whether it is comes under the Consumer Protection Act. That's one the first part, or else becomes under Ministry of Human Resource and Development because teaching, medical, and engineering both comes under the payment. That means we are inculcating, we are emancipating, we are developing the society. Uh, Teaching, obviously, yes, develop deals with the people and the person. Engineering deals with the technical as well as the people and the economic forum. But it is the medicine who has got both economic, because if a society, if a group of people, if a herd of a mob is doing well, obviously it will improve the economy. So, guys, what I'm trying to say about, I don't want to go deep into it. Know your rights, know the law, know the rule, and know which sector that you comes under. Okay, so as a medical professional, it also comes under the Consumer Act 2008. Okay, we are 2009. Sorry, we are then as a medical nursing professional, as the works which is related to it, it comes under the Consumer Protection Act because if anything happens in the workplace which is related to the working sector, obviously that comes under the category. Also, that human labor workforce is the major workforce in the human resource development. So whenever you have a time, whenever there is a place and there is a time for it, do check out what all the things which mentioned in the human resource history, what are all the articles which is related to it, and what are all the basic amenities that as a professional that you got. Okay, coming back to the next part of it. So in the year 2008, way back some then
Sir, உங்க மைக் வந்து மியூட் ஆயிடுச்சு சார். Sir,
You're not audible.
you're not audible, sir.
so I believe that can you able to hear me? Uh,
இப்போ ஓகே சார்.
okay, sir. Okay, so we'll go ahead with the next one. So before we'll say about the policies and before we'll say about the functions of it, the base of anything is our constitutions. Our constitution provides us with everything from top to bottom, from what is going to happen in 50 and 60 years and what is hasn't started, whether it is technical, whether it is education, whether it is health, and everything about it. I really wanted to say about education or health education, but being it is an education day, we'll stick on to the objective perspectives of education alone. So it comes under Article 45 in the Indian Constitution, the provision for free and compulsory education for all, especially under the age of 14. First, it started with for yes, yes, okay. So I believe that everyone can able to hear me and able to check it out the screen. If at all, if there is any technical glitch, do let me know about it. If at all, if you either if you couldn't able to hear me, or if you couldn't able to see the view the screen, please do let me know about it. Okay, I'll go ahead with the part. So it is the Article 45 which gives us the provision for free and compulsory education for children. Students and friends, colleagues, learned persons, faculties, everyone, I'll put forth this doubt on it. Every country has its own policies. Every country has its own structure. There are so many countries like ours that like developing countries which has a huge population like us. I will exclude China. I think if we have to compare the parallel country, what we have, the same kind of demographical and geographical part is Brazil. I think we both are wanting to get into the permanent membership in the UN. What's the one thing or the unique feature which excludes or which we have, which the other countries might not have, especially when compared to our fellow competitors? Brazil is so many people. I'm not saying only the number of it. There are so many groups of people. Again, I'm not going with caste, creed, or anything to do with a particular thing. There are we have. It is a country. Obviously, Kashmir to Kanyakumari, it is a country. It is one country that we have. But there are groups and there are herds of people that have a different sect, who has a different way of life, has a different tradition, who has a different cultural phenomenon. So, like when compared to rest of the countries, but this is the only country where the actual inhabitants where there are so many variants. Like for an example, if we go on, the US means obviously you have a different groups of people. But if you take the Spanish people, means obviously they are migrants from either from Mexico or from Spain or from the inlands of South America. If we have the Asians, means obviously the peoples who have migrated from Asia to US. Even if we take the real English people, obviously they are white men. Obviously, most of them are migrated from England or from Europe. So, like if we can able to identify, okay, who are all the actual inhabitants of uh, the United States, the Newfoundland is obviously the Indians. But as a country of India, we are the sons and daughters of this land. We are the people of this country, but still we have so, I'll not use the word as differences, but variations. We have so many different groups, we have so many different people, physically, mentally, language, demographic, in every way. There are so many different people who are living under one roof, that is under the country of, under the name of India. In that case, see, in Brazil, uh, 78% or they belong to Spanish, they speak Spanish, or the descendants of Spanish. So the remaining persons, either they're from Africans or they are from the rest of the South American countries, or if they are from the other parts of, if they are from the other parts of the inlands, they have one tradition. They have the Amazonian frictions or the other part. But here we have different kinds of, there are, you can't even count the numbers of it. So many variations, there are so many traditions, cultures, and everything. So to give amenities, to give education to all the people, that's a huge and mammoth challenge for all the policymakers at the biggest once the India got independence. Because there are people who's from hill regions. One is geographically obvious. The
சார் உங்க ஸ்லைடு வந்து ஷேர் ஆகல சார்.
okay, sir. All right. So it is a huge and mammoth task for the first cabinet members and follow-up policy makers to bring how to get education, to how to give education, how to make the education to reach all the children, especially under the age of 14. Okay, so this is where obviously India is a democratic country. Obviously, we follow everything under the rule of law. Everything that comes under the rule of law, that's the first and pretext of, first and important is the law. But the one thing that they made it compulsory at the very beginning outset of the Indian independence is compulsory education for the underage children. Okay, that's the healthcare benefits that comes later. That depends upon the economic sets of. But the first and foremost, as an educational person, as you are a practicing person, as an educated person like us, we should know about it. The first importance has been given to education in our country when compared to the rest of it. Yes, obviously, food, water, shelter, the basic amenities, everything that comes under it. But as a Indian constitution makers, the persons who wrote the Indian constitution, first they given their importance to compulsory education in India. I think very few countries, if I'm not wrong, I think the Finland has the highest number of educational ratios. Even that country has started in way back in late 70s or in the early 80s. But we as a country, we started our compulsory education for all underage children under the age of 14 from the biggest of our Indian independence itself. So the first and foremost importance being given to education in our place. Okay, as we are commemorating, as we are remembering the late Sri Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad and it's all the cabinet members and all the policy makers. At this day, at this outset, we have to thank all the policy makers who have initiated, who gave the idea, who got the embryo of this uh, great thing, or who followed it till now. We have to thank all our politicians as well as the bureaucrats and the policymakers at this time, because they may have so many differences, they may have the ups and downs and upheavals and so many things. But when it comes to the education part, our country, it may have different equations. Obviously, yes, different so states have different perspectives. Different states have some states have lower education ratios has been high. Some states have a higher education. But leaving aside all the, yes, everything has to be rectified. But leaving aside everything, the utmost importance has been given to education, and almost we can say that still, I think it has to reach many of the children. Obviously, yes, it hasn't reached 100% the potential that we haven't reached even after 75 years of independence. Still, we are tumbling and stumbling with educational policies. But on the other hand, like we said about, this is a country like, it has so many groups, it has so many different sets of peoples, so many different ways of life. Even within a single state, that there are different demographics which has a whole different structures. People are so many different. So to give education and to give a thing with, and to make them understand, this is utmost important, this is utmost care, and this is the thing that our country needs to put forth if we have to, if we have to go in the development process. So in this way, in this instance, this time, as a learner, as a practitioner, as a person who is going to be uh, helping towards the society and the well-being of individuals as well as the group of people, as an educational person, friends get to know about the persons who made it this. Yes, it has its own ups and downs, it has its own upheavals, it has its own discrepancies, it has its own structures, it has its own pros and cons and merits and demerits, the advantages and disadvantages, all the things has been there. But still, that education has been put forth under all governments and has been implemented in all parts. Let's hope that, and let's hope and believe that this education is being successful, or it will be reached to all the children, especially under the age of 14, as soon as possible as it can. Okay? So, uh, in this instance, I will say about two. I think there are a couple of other things too that comes later, but we'll go with the major educational structure of. First is the UGC, University Grants Commission, and AICT, All India Council for Technical Education. See, in the Europes, or in the Europe as well as US, they have an education structure is, the government will take care 70% of, the private players will have a 30%, and people can either, obviously, like people on any part of the world, they can choose whatever the streams they are able to go ahead. But needs to come to our country is that the government has made it a compulsory or a mandatory that whether it is a private or whether it is a government or whether it is a government aided institutions, I'm saying the educational institution perspective, everything that should come under the Ministry of Human Resource and Development, Ministry of Higher Education, and University Grants Commission is the head for all the universities which deals with arts and science streams. I'm not going with the medical thing that comes later, but in India, so this is where the challenges, this is where the technical or the kind of the brilliance of our policy makers comes under, whether it is a private player or a government run institutions or a government help provided institutions, whatever it might be, the rules and the regulations should be monitored, should be taken care by the University Grants Commission. That's the head of all the science and art streams in India. The likewise also goes for AICT, All India Council for Technical Education, that deals with all the prelims and the preambles of all the engineering and all the technical and educational institutions. See, I've been member for quite some time. And every time when we used to give, when we used to make a syllabus, or when we used to make a forum which is helpful to the students of the engineering background, usually the head would usually say that think about all the people, think about all the students who is from the north, west, east, and south. Make a platform or make a syllabus which is acceptable or which is understandable, which is reachable to all parts of it. Just don't think along only to the rural sector or the urban sector or the semi-urban sector. This syllabus has to reach all of them. Not only it has to reach, it also should make them to understand why what we are doing, why we are doing, what's the purpose of it, and with their understanding, they should be able to make the society to to a bit to an extra understanding of it. So these two central governments authorized, recognized institutions is one of the standing pillars of our higher secondary education. Today, we'll go ahead with the higher secondary part because if at all we'll go with the primary and the secondary part of the school, means that it's a whole different bunch of it. Then we have to start from the children of Ministry of Children and Information. But we'll stick to the higher education. That's the above schooling part. So under the policies which is related to the education, first and foremost, I have to say that Article 45 gives us the free education for all of them. Under the free education, it is made compulsory. Not only it is free, it is compulsory for the underage children of age 14. That it is one of the basic features and the basic um, constitutions provided utmost importance and utmost taken given utmost care has been given to education. That's the first thing. And the second thing is obviously like we have two major pillars, which is UGCs and AICs. Why I didn't take upon the medical institution is that like has I'll say later why I hasn't taken up education, the head which is related to medical education. Okay, this I have taken only with the arts and science streams as well as with the engineering part. So second most important is that in the way back in the late 1950s and the early 1960s, the policy makers has given us importance to two things. One is University Grants Commission. Second thing is All in AIC, All India Council for Technical Education. The purpose of these two things is that to provide education everyone to all for all, and it is compulsory, free, as well as like I already said about it should reach, it should understand, and it should make them to know about the variance of all the structures of. All right. So in 2022, in this National Education Day, I think we have two things. One is changing course, the other is transformation education. Uh, I think as a person, you might know about it. So we are on the verge of introducing or implementing the new educational policy. Still, the reform structure has been done, both the positives and negatives, advantages and disadvantages has been it's been circulated and it's been passed over on it. But today we'll stick on to in the new educational policy as well as the whole follow-up method is especially in related to our theme of 2022 is changing course and transforming education. Changing course means it's not deviating the education. That we have to understand. Okay. Whatever the new has been implemented, it has both its positive and negative. Obviously, everything has two sides of the coin. But here, the changing course refers to not changing the entire course, but like giving importance to practical oriented. So the thing is that like yes, we have theoretical theory is as important as practical, but only the theoretical part of knowledge alone is not going to provide. For an example, um, now I'll say about why I haven't taken up the medical education. See, uh, I will put forth this question and I'll say it a couple of seconds later also. what's the difference between health education or which is a medical education, medical college with the rest of the colleges? Is in a commerce stream or in a management stream or in any arts and stream for this matter, a faculty is not a profession. Faculty is a teaching profession, but a faculty is not a person who is may or may not be in a business sector, may not be in a banking sector, may not be a writer, may not be a poet, but he or she has the knowledge of inculcating or teaching something. The same thing goes for an engineering part. The persons who, the faculties or the professionals who are in the engineering sectors may or may not be an engineer. The options are within them. But as far as this medical education is concerned, a nursing faculty should be a nurse. She or he has to be a practitioner nurse. He has to or she has to get or he has to qualify herself to be in a teaching sector. But basically, a nurse or a doctor or any medical practitioner belong to the professionals, belong to the sector. See, guys, I think I may able to pass this information. See, this is the only educational sector medical related to the medical teaching or in the medical nursing or medical colleges or any other streams which is related to medical education. This is the only place where the exactly profession will be also your faculty. See, I'm a faculty in English literature. I'm teaching the poems, I'm teaching the stories, I'm teaching the grammar, I'm teaching the all the social functions of it. But I may not be a writer, I may not be a poet, I may not be a fictional performer, I may not be an actor, I may not be a social scientist, but I can teach all these things because I got the theoretical knowledge of it. Yes, I may have a practical thing, but that depends upon the individual. Likewise, the same apply things for an engineering company. See, a person who's teaching a civil a diagram which is related to a civil engineer or a coding in an computer science engineer or coding in a hardware sector may not be a electrical engineer, may not be a computer science engineer, may not be a codex developer. But as a medical professional, as a medical, like as you guys know that when you are in the college or whatever, your faculty is basically nurse. Your faculty is basically a doctor. Your faculty is basically a person which is related to his or her field, his or her education promoted or promulgated into the teaching facet as a kind of a teaching faculty. So this is the difference between a UGC, the ICT, and the medical education sector. This is why I haven't taken upon the medicinal sector is because UGC and IICT is as a policy makers. They give out the policies, they give out the functions of, but as a medical sector, they are not only making the policies, they are practicing it and they are giving the practice to their fellow students and the next generation learners. So changing course here, students, it's not only about the new education policy, but I'm sticking upon with the overall education policy. And this year's theme of National Educational Days are course means not changing the subject, not changing the syllabus, not changing the way of this course, but the way of teaching, the way of learning, the way of getting the information. Obviously, this right now we've got every information in our place. So right now it's all about how to get it, where to get it, and how to reflect on. So we got informations in our hands, we got facts and figures information in hands. What to do with that? So instead of giving the questions to the students itself, while they are learning itself, making them to understand, okay, this is the subject, this is the result, this is the equation, and this is the formula. So changing course means making the or sustainable to understand, making the learners to understand more. So as one of the key features of our educational policy that we need to change upon, or the government is planning to change upon, is to make the students to understand more what it is, how it is, and where it should be applied. Instead of going with the entire theoretical part of it, let's say that we have our own options to be a practical person. Next is transforming education. Obviously, there are times, there are periods where we need to change our way of seeing others. Obviously, the society, yes, obviously, society is society from the day that men started to live, when civilized men started to live about. But the trends are changing about. Trends means not the style, not the way of approach, not the lifestyle. See, there were times that people used to spend almost, will stick on to engineering sector. There are times people used to spend upon months and weeks to get to know about the outside structure of a machine. Now, right now, we got webinar and we got different social media platforms like YouTube, stars, all the kind of all the social media platforms are there, or like web sources are there. So in a fraction of, or given for an example, given if I am not wrong, 1982 is where an electrical engineer lab hours is from 17 to 21 hours in a semester. For a practical alone, an engineer, this is again subject to correction, 17 to 21 hours an engineer spends on a lab. But right now, we've got 6 hours. It doesn't mean that the people will spend on the other part of it, but the vast subject has been extended. It has been vast. So right now it's been demarcated. Right now, yes, people has got information in their hand, people has got values in their hand, people has got time in their hand, so people has got sources in their hand. So right now, their timing of lab hours has been shrunk from 14, 15 to almost half of or one third of 6 plus 7. So the second theme of our educational policies in 2022 is transforming education based on the needs. See, altogether, both of the themes deals with what the learner needs. It is all about consumerism. Obviously, that is a kind of a plain term that I should not use, but that is a kind of thing like depending upon the needs of the learner, depending upon the purpose of the learner. So what they need, how they need, and what should be taught. Okay. So changing course, transforming education is both are interlinked. It's all about the needs of the learner. Okay. See, we are living in a fast pace. Everything is has its own time period. It's all like you guys know about it. However, a drug, however, a medicinal herb is valuable, but it has its own period. Yeah, so it has its own lapse. After that period of time, it should not be used. The same thing applies for administration. That means it doesn't mean outdated. It has to be modified. Again, it has its own merits and demerits. That is subject to correction. That has to be discussed. That has to be brought forth to the desk. That has to be kind of like ideological or a policy that has to be exchanged with the different people, because like I said about, this is the country where we have so many different people. See, this is the place where we have a kind of a vast majority of it. See, friends, again I'm saying about it, if you can compare it to any other country in the world, like this is the place where we have a limited number of demographics. Geographically we are limited, that means places, but we have tons and tons of people about it. Difference are like even within a Tamil Nadu, we'll have this. Okay. See, the southern Tamil Nadu, they have a different set of their accents are different. Way of life is different. Their educational purpose are different. I think in the western Tamil Nadu, mainly we deals with the technical part of it, because this is where all the hardware industries lined up in it. So within a single state, education has a different role. Education is the same, but it has its own different appearances. Uh, can you able to hear me? Sir, கேக்குதுங்களா சார்?
கேக்குதுங்க சார்.
ஓகே சார், ஓகே. சாரி சார், நடுவில் இன்டரப்ஷன்.
ஓகே சார்.
Okay. Sorry for the interrupt part of it. Beg your pardon. So this is the ultimate thing.
சார் ஸ்லைட் சேஞ்ச் ஆகலைன்னு நினைக்கிறேங்க சார்.
Okay, sir. Okay. So again, I don't want to go stick on to the other part of it. Those are changing course and transforming education. So again, it's subject to corrections. It may have its own merits and demerits, but altogether, need of the art. What is it we need at this time? How it should be modified? How it should be segregated? So that's the altogether. Okay. I'll just give an overview of it. So basically, when educational policy is being implemented, especially when it's related to the old education policy as well as the new education policies, about reform and adaptable. So these are the two key features about it. See, I may have a different view on. I may have a different perspective of it. Okay, these are all the things that should be, I say, these are all the things that should be added to the syllabus. But it should be adaptable to the people. Because at most, obviously, yes, the faculty or one of the players. The other side of it, other side of the table, obviously, is the learner's perspective. So, in a way of reforming it, because that's what the British made it a big blunder, is that they reformed it. Obviously, there are some things that has to be accepted, but it couldn't adapt to the Indian society. And these the things also applicable to the utmost right person policy makers. Yes, we have reforms, we have reform bills, we have reform structure. See, ஒரு விஷயத்தை reform பண்றோம். There's a form. இதுதான் இப்படிதான் நடக்கும் அப்படிங்கிறது. We have a form here. This is how the form structure. This is how it should be. Take for an example. Okay, first year of nursing. This is the first step. This is the second step part of it. This is the third one, and the second year it should be continuation of the third step, and the fourth step has to go, and the same thing applies to it. But in the name of reforming it, I should not stick to the first step. Should not be reached to the fourth step, and fourth step should not be able to reach the eighth step. It should be adaptable. It should reach. Okay, the learner should be capable and able to grab hold of the syllabus, the policy, of its structure. Like I said about of its transformation, the learner should know and should be able to understand the structure of what is all about. Okay, so the first feature of an educational policy, of a new educational policy, is reformation, and it should be adapted. Because, like I said, see, guys, friends, always remember whichever the points it's mentioned here, whichever the things that's been said, always remember that we are the country which has so many people. I'm not saying the population, obviously, that's almost a billion population. I'm not saying the number of population. I'm saying about the different variety sects. Again, I'm not going with the caste and creed. That has to be completely eradicated. I'm not going to say with that. But the different herd of people, different groups of people. So to make them to understand, to make them to, first of all, to understand ourselves, what's the need of it. For an example, if I have to say, see, there was a student from the northeast part, and when we were teaching, I think long back when I was involved in the teaching part of it, his utmost aim is not to go with literature, not to go with it. He wants to develop on the grammar. So the reason why he wanted to develop on the grammar is his first and foremost priority is the competitive exams. His perspective joining literature is joining able to clear the competitive exams. There are persons who wanted to be aspirant to be a writer. There are persons who wanted to go into the media field. There are persons who wanted to go into the teaching sector. There are persons who want to take care of business, who wants the English as a backbone of it. So we have a different sects, we have a different backgrounds from different mindsets of students about it. to able to make them to understand the syllabus, to able to make them to know, okay, this is important. This is utmost care should be given. This is where the line should be drawn. This is where the reformation should. In the name of reforming it, I should not able to make the student alienate. Instead, I should make them to adapt to the situations. So the first foremost important of educational policy is reformation and adaptation. Always, whenever what again I'm saying about it, whatever the thing I'm saying, always put kind of put an arrow that the number of populations or the country as a whole. So that's the first. In the future of educational policy is reformation and adaptation. Okay, yes, it is time to reform, but it also will be considered to make them students to understand why it is being reformed. So without that, there's no use in reforming. Okay. So next educational policy. So this is like I already said about there are so many things which we stand differs from the other countries. So one among the thing is that giving importance to primary education. So we did not go with education for all under all ages. We started with primary education. This is a follow-up of our age-old, like previous, much before previous slide of constitutions. We concentrated on primary education under in the class of 5 because that's where the limited numbers as well as the limited teachers can be pointed, and as well as like we'll go with the a little structure. So in our Indian education, the compulsories or the much importance being given to primary education. Okay, so in this, I think if I have to say one or two instances, we stand out from the remaining states. I don't want to differ from the remaining states, but one of the other reasons we have to stand out from the remaining other states is that obviously meal scheme. Now we have come up on to the free breakfast schemes. Things உணவு திட்டம், சத்துணவு திட்டம், காலை சிற்றுண்டிகள். If I have to say in Tamil, so if I couldn't able to say it, I have to say it in English means obviously the lunch scheme, the nutritious lunch scheme, and the breakfast. So these are all the things that made one among the reasons of primary educations to reach to one. Obviously, then it comes with uniforms, books, proper sanitation facilities, safety, procurements, and everything. So first importance being given to primary education. Second thing is that it has a little differ in it, but like I don't know whether we reach the full potential of reaching the 100% girls educations because there are seriously things has to be improved. But the second most importance has been given again to girls education. Like I said about starting from Rajaram Mohan Roy, so many social activists, so many policymakers, so many politicians, so many bureaucrats who really put their blood, soil, and sweat to make it into a happen. Because, like we said, about this is a place where we have so many different groups of people to make them to get into it, to make them understand. Like I said, about to make them to reach the education. That's important. So, primary education, girls' education, and already I've explained it much detail about it. Compulsory for under the age of 15. I think right now, it's been increased. They're planning to increase to 18 or something. I'm not sure, but again, subject to correction about it. But again, compulsory for the age of 15. Okay. So in this thing, in the middle, I wanted to say one more important thing is that, and this is the first time that I've been up close and personal and professional towards our medical students and medical professional learners. Getting an abrupt break mid of what I'm saying about the educational policies, whether known wise and unknown wise, the United Nations have announced 2020 as the International Year of Nurse, and we didn't know about it, we didn't know about it. But I believe that that's been appropriately suitable at that year because 2020 is where obviously the pandemic has started. and it has to be. I've already said it again, but I'll say it again. It's completely. It is because of the frontline professionals, social workers. It is because of them, obviously, that people could be able to surpass this horrific and deadly times. Okay, so thanks again, from a normal person's perspective, to making this happen about it. So this 2020, obviously, uh, the UN has acknowledged with the International Year of Nurse and Midwives. So what it has got to do with the educational part of it, they know the importance of every profession. Not only like every profession is here and everything about it, but like how a primary education is important, how a girl's education is important, how a compulsory education is important. Likewise, nurses, midwives, and medical professionals are much too important. That's been commemorated by the United Nations. Now we'll go ahead with the education in service. That's teaching, engineering, and medical. See, there's a saying in English, no man should be left alone. Okay, so everyone should be brought forth. Inclusiveness, including every person in the society. We may differ physically, mentally. I've already said about I'm not a supporter of caste, creed, and any other thing that divides people about it. But like we are varied, we are different in so many different structures. But having said that, people may differ, people way of life differ, people's approach towards other people's might differ, but that doesn't mean under the education no one should be left alone. Everyone should be included. Our educational policies, the basic pillars of our educational policies is inclusiveness. Every child is important. Every learner is important. See, a person might be good at studies. A person might not be good at studies. A person might get marks, may not get marks. Interested, not interested, all sort of. Already said about education is not only about teaching lessons, theories, practicals. Yes, that's important. That is not only important. Education is making a person into a human. Everyone is a person. We are all living beings. We are all living things. Yes, we have nervous system, like lungs, we have brains, we have brains and everything. Yeah, we are speaking, we are breathing. But that doesn't mean that we are making us a human. What makes differ from the other living things is our humanity. So education is all about teaching a person to treat fellow human. And for that, the rope is including each and every person. So that's where even a person who has been done a crime, done uh, bad or evil thing, and is being trialed and it's being punished by the court of law, whether he is under 18, whether he is above 18, he or she has got the right to get education even from inside the prison, because health, education, and basic right to are the basic amenities of any person. எல்லையே இருந்தாலுமே a person get right to education. A person should get right to health. He or she has to get the basic health facilities. He may not or she may not get the other things, but education and health first and foremost. It's like food and water to us. Okay? So the under the educational policy, next key factor is inclusiveness, including every person from different parts of our country. Everyone should be included. I'll make it fast because I think it's almost an hour has gone by. So I'll make it a little bit fast to it. Next is unity. Unity. Okay. So we included it. What's the next part of unifying everyone? Like I said, the good, yes, we are different. We are different. Obviously, that's what the unique from the different parts of the world. We are unique. We are unique in differentiate. Okay, but that doesn't mean that no one should be left behind. Education should bring us united. We are one. Everyone, like I said, about everyone under the law is equal. Everyone under the sun above the land is the right to do everything under the law. Okay. So the next part of our education is unity. It's not only including everyone, it's also make them to unite. Like I said about it should make the people to understand what it is, why we are doing, how we are speaking, what we are speaking. We should not speak that. We should speak like that. Okay. The last thing we have included it. We have made them unite to whom we are done. Yes, everyone is important. Everyone is important. Think about still now, you might have seen in social media, you might have seen in news and newspapers. Still now, there are people who is underprivileged who couldn't even get the basic amenities to right to live, food, water. And then comes the education. Even the person, whether they are nomads, whether they are street living persons, homeless persons, children, like who is below the poverty. There are persons who is par with the poverty line, and there are persons who is below the poverty line, and there are persons who with the way like like persons like a children who doesn't have a parents, who doesn't know about the parents, or who has to take care of themselves. If they couldn't be able to find food for themselves, how can they go for an education? So that's what the government, the Indian society has come out with it free education, only free education part of it. Person who couldn't able to take care of themselves, government has to take care. That's where the homes comes. That's where the repatriate places comes. That's where the destitute areas comes out. So the inclusiveness of people, uniting of people, not only with the common, even the persons who has been deprived from all their rights, persons who couldn't get a single thing in their life should be able to get food, health, and education. Okay? So our policy is not only about including us, our policy is not only about uniting us. This is I wanted to emphasize. It has to include all the people, everyone. It has to unite all the people, all the children, whether they are privileged, whether they are with privilege, whether they are below privileged, or they are underprivileged. So the purpose of any education is including us, uniting us, not only including and uniting, it should cover almost everyone. Okay. Again, I'll go with the next part of our branches of education. I've already said about UGC, the IIC, AICTs. The next branches, obviously, one of the key branches or one of the key institutions of our Indian education, which process much more here, obviously, is All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and Indian Institute of Technology, and Indian Institute of Management. I think our students from this set, obviously, I don't want to go with the aims because you guys much more than what I can able to say about it because it will be another cliched idols. But IITs and IIMs, they are passing it, providing it out much superior students who are able to excel in their life as well as outside of our country. And the same likewise goes to AIMS. One of the recognized and one of the approved, authorized by the United Nations and sorry, UN Health Departments, and societies, science institutions. So, along with UGCs and AICTs, another deciding factors which improves education or Indian education to another level is these three institutions. I think in this time I wanted to share a very important person, Mr. Daulat Singh Kothari. This Kothari Commission was started in the year 1964 and gave its tabled on 1966. Because in education, along with there are so many things, this is one among the policymakers who made this happen. This AICT, IITs, IIMs, primary education, girl children, all these things. There are so many persons who have implemented, but it's been tabled, it's been become a policy. From what we are doing right now under the national educational policies is the basic principle of Mr. Kothari's commission. And what's his implementation is It's not like this is the primary and this is the secondary, but under him, the utmost importance has to be given to maths, mathematics, and science. The first, obviously. So that's where the AIMS and IITs that comes into this case, because this is where the deciding factor of a country lies in. Science, obviously, you guys know about it, how important it is. And maths, obviously, the technical maths. Not only it's all about maths, it's about engineering, it's all about the technical stuff. And then comes the arts and the social sciences, that's life streams. So it's not like this is the first and this is second, but like the primary utmost implementations has been given to maths and science. So this is where obviously I've said about all the institutions, IITs, IIMs, all sort of, and that comes the arts and sciences where the UGCs and all the other life science streams comes into it. So we as a country, obviously, yes, we have different laws, different things that has to be discussed, different things that needs to be monitored, and also even being said about all those things. In our educational policy, we have given space for everything. It is up to the institutions, it is up to the individual to take up what it is. Every year, Ministry of Human Resource and Development is providing us with scholarships in different platforms, in different streams, not only with the research, not only with education, even if you got an innovative idea in any part of it, you are provided with the monetary benefits. So our policy has its own structure. It's one of the longest structures. Our Indian Constitution is one of the longest or the biggest constitutions which covers almost all areas. Okay? So, having said about all this thing, I think you guys might have an idea about our policy. One thing I have to say about it, I've said it time and again, our policy should cover each and every children in this country. I'm saying in the higher education, in the primary education, in the education sector. Every person's needs, fulfillments, and their expectations should be taken account. Reformation, changes, transformation, everything should reach, it should be adaptable, and it should place a level in their own individual. In this final instance, I think I gave a brief about what policy is all about. See, there's a census being taken on in South Asia, is Southeast Asia, obviously. Under the pretext of a population, we are in demand of 2.4 million nurses. Again, subject to correction because it's based on facts and figures published in newspapers and web sources. In South Asia, the places where we all belong comes under it. According to the populations, continent is in need of 2.4 million, but what we've got is 1.7 million nurses and medical professionals. See, I didn't go deep, or I didn't want to say about the labor workforce, the labor laws, but we should know about what is the law that we have, what is the right we have, what is the rules we have, how are we monitored, how are we, what is the place of our profession in the constitution, in the labor law, in the human resource ministry, all sort of things. But leave professionals part. Like, see, a teacher can be replaced by another teacher. An engineer can be replaced by another engineer in the construction over. A doctor or a medical professional has diagnosing a person. Another doctor, another medical professional can able to take care. But when compared to all other things, every medical profession has their own unique style of diagnosing a person. You are unique. You have your own skill. You have your own intellect. The theory might be same, the practical might be same, but the output might differ. And this is explicitly can be seen in the medical professions. So at this juncture, at this I wanted to convey my wish. I wanted to convey my eagerness to say that as a nursing professional, as a nursing graduate, as a nursing learner, as a nursing student, students, friends, faculties, what you are doing is something that we could even think able to think it of. There are persons who can able to do other works, but a medical professional can do only a medical professional can do only their profession. So you have taken great step. Do go with, do give your skill, do give your service, and do give your utmost to work to the society and to the people because we are in demand of. Not only I would not say that we are in demand of it, we are in need of. So in this educational day, in on this time, I wanted to thank, I wanted to appreciate, and I wanted to remind you of it. What you have taken is a pious, a holy. So be courage in it, be strong in it. You have got an education. Think about thousands and millions of people who hasn't got opportunity to get an education. When you reach a place, do help each other because educational policy, education structure, just to heard alone, to hear alone, to get the information facts and to attend the seminars or the online alone, it might be good. It is good. It should be done. But the output is adaptable is what you're taking away. So we are as a country, we are as a people of this world. We should help each other. We should tend to each other. So as a person from nursing stream, do give you obviously you are, but along with that, what I have to say that you are the persons who made us to get out all of so many deadly things in our life, so many different stances, to provide us with the same thing. Again, thanks for all the services that you are going to give us. Thanks for giving, taking up this human and much life-saving profession. You will excel in it. On this educational day, too thankful for all your faculties, institutions, your parents, your friends, your neighbors, your well-beings, whoever, teachers, whoever made you to get into this place to get an education. And when you reach it, do think about the persons who hasn't got the education. Try to help them. We'll make this a better place sometime. Again, uh, in this instance, I wanted to thank faculties who has taken initiative in making this program, the persons who organized it, principals, respected faculties, institutions, student friends. Thanks for being so patient at all this time. I hope that it will be a considerable time for me, for you to ponder and think about. We've got an education, what to do with it. So our country has got use time for everything. Make use of it. Best wishes to all your professions for all your well.
Thank you so much, sir. So at this outset, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Lord Almighty for His blessing. My heartfelt thanks to the management and my respectable principal, Dr. A. Jayasudha, and for her motivation, guidance, and support. My heartfelt thanks to today's eminent speaker, Mr. Vinu Sudan, sir. Sir, thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and you have put a lot of effort in this education policy, sir. Thank you once again, sir. You gave a brief about education policy. You have simplified and you made it our student can easily understand what you have taken discussed today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
I would like to appreciate your respect for the healthcare professionals, sir. You have quoted how important are students to the society and how valuable the profession is. Thank you so much for highlighting that, sir. And I would like to thank Dr. Bhaskaran, Professor Mental Health Nursing Department. He's the IAC coordinator for arranging this wonderful session. I thank all the students for your patient listening, and thank you once again. Yes. Come on, everyone.
Yes.
If you have any questions, you can ask. We can discuss now if you have any questions.
Medical service sector that comes under Consumer Act 2009 because நாளைக்கு நம்ம வேலைக்கு போற சமயத்துல வந்து நியூஸ் பேப்பர்ல இதெல்லாம் பார்த்துப்போ வந்து லைக் பேஷண்ட்ஸ்னோட ஏதாச்சும் ப்ராப்ளம்ஸோ இல்லை ஒர்க் பிளேஸ்ல ஏதாச்சும் இஷ்யூஸ் அப்படின்னா அண்டர் த லா தட் வி ஆர் ப்ரொடெக்டட் medical professionals being protected under Consumer Protection Act 2009 and Article 41A வந்து நம்மளுக்கு உண்டான ரூல்ஸ் அண்ட் நம்மளுக்கு உண்டான என்னென்ன பெனிஃபிட்ஸ் அப்படின்னு இருக்கு. இப்போ நான் இதுல அட்மோஸ்ட் சொல்ல வர விஷயம் என்னன்னா எப்பாச்சும் டைம் கிடைக்கும் போது நெட்லயும் சரி இல்லை எங்க சோர்ஸ் மெட்டீரியல் கிடைக்கும் சரி உங்களுக்கு என்னென்ன as a nurse as a medical professional என்னென்ன இருக்குன்னு தெரிஞ்சு வச்சுங்க. I think probably it will be. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much, sir. We had a wonderful session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, students. Have a good day. We can end the meet.